strategy discussion than a psychological discussion, although psychology comes into it. And as I trade with my friends and fellow traders, I see some really brilliant people who really seem to understand their approach, who still get head faked and, unless they're scalping very rapidly, seem to not be doing as well as they should be. And so as a result of this, I was talking to one of my trader friends. Believe it or not, this wasn't intended to have been done. It kind of came out with I and one of my trading friends, a good friend of mine, Charlie Prince, and I said, there's a problem why any of us have difficulty, and I've been aware of it for a long time. And so we'll go into this in detail in just a minute. Let me give you the disclaimer. And there's a slight lag, I don't know why, for pulling up the slides, but we're projecting them so we don't have any crashes. Basically, this is slightly different from the disclaimer that I give, and it's because I'm talking about a conceptual / strategic / psychological type of thing. So this is not meant to be any kind of therapy or any kind of medical treatment. And by the way, this applies in many areas of your life. So it's not just trading in business, in several other areas, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. But basically, there is risk in trading. As I always say, get as educated as you can, learn good risk management, keep your losses low, and manage your emotions as best you can. Some of you know me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical psychologist and a professional options trader. I also do trade some futures, and I'm getting more into futures. As my situation changes, I can do different things, and I really like both of them. But because of my schedule and because of also being a full-time psychologist, I guess three-quarter-time psychologist, I should say, and I'm in my office, I can't always be there watching the market. It was frustrating to be able to read the market and not make money on it. And that's really what got me into options a long time ago. So I've been teaching for a long time. I've been a psychologist for a long time, and I've been trading for a long time. And I've won some awards, and really, I'm very, very interested. The reason why I got into the teaching aspect of this, and probably teaching psychologists and social workers as well, is why did I become a psychologist? Because I was interested in the mind, but I also wanted to help people. So I really have a blend between the two of those. And I'm really getting very much into enhanced performance of people through advanced technology, brain stimulation, really good information if you ever go online and look at this. This stuff is jumping by leaps and bounds. All of our stocks will be knocked off. In fact, some of you who look at this, your stocks will be knocked off. So I'm very interested in what we can do with the technology we have, as well as the psychological knowledge to help traders. Now, what kind of things do I do? Just so you know who I am. Well, I teach a comprehensive options course. I also teach a basics options course. I mentor traders weekly, so we meet weekly, and I've also mentored traders individually as well over the years. I conduct a trader performance workshop, almost a human performance workshop for traders, and that is in its evolution. I'm actually working on a book on that, and I've actually, due to Tom Busby, started what they asked me to do, some introduction of what I do with options. It's actually starting to become a book, believe it or not. Also, during the week, I identify trades that I think are good, and I share them with other traders. And I'm not an advisor or anything, but if I find good stuff, if I find a good restaurant, I'm going to tell my friends what a good restaurant is, and hopefully it stays good. And then also I kind of joke around with my friends and say I try to shepherd the flock. I do that with my family. I try to do that with the other traders, and try to bring people to greener pastures, basically, pun intended. So again, I do have quite a few things. So this isn't necessarily what I do in my clinical practice. This is what I do related to trading and some of the human performance. There's a few questions that I always think everybody should ask themselves, and I met a lot of traders, and the questions I want to ask, and I'm not going to teach you a trading technique. I'm going to try to get your heads in the right place to be more effective traders. And by the way, one other thing, I'm not selling anything today at all, so believe it or not, my goal is just purely education today. This is unusual for all of you. Don't be in some kind of shell shock. Are you losing money in the markets? Some people are, some people aren't. Or have you lost money in the markets and you kind of gave up? Are you breaking even in trading? Many people will break even, but they're not being really successful. A big thing that often comes, and how have you recovered your education costs? Now, I know I work with a lot of psychologists who probably spend $100,000, $200,000 for their education. I think it's insane, but they do recover it with their work. So, okay, I've made some money, but have you recovered all your educational costs? And sometimes that's hard to do, depending on what you're doing, and sometimes you'll take things just for your own interest, not necessarily to make an income off of it. But it's an important question to ask yourself. Are you making any money with your trading? And I think that's a real important question. Not only do I run into people who are losing money, I run into people not making any money. And then the biggest question is, people get into trading to make a living. Are you making a living? And I run into many, many people who burn through accounts and they haven't been making a living. And the most common thing, by the way, is, and we all have to be honest, it's a lot of break-evens. And then another thing that I personally am always been interested in, am I building assets with my trading? Okay, big deal. I replace the days I trade, I replace what I made in my practice, but am I building assets? And, that's a good question to ask. And then also, do we really want to improve our trading from different perspectives? Most of us have probably gone around the block with different programs and different learning styles, candlesticks, this and whatever, and they're good. I'm not saying they're bad. I understand that stuff. But I see people learning it, and they'll say, well, I know why I'm, and they're still not really being that successful. Yet the people who are selling them, they are successful, and there may be an edge that they have. So my goal here today is really to somehow reshape your thinking and really to get you folks to understand what I call the 3 Ds of mindfulness trading. Now, we could call this a lot of other things, but there are 3 Ds, so let's get that to you. So if you can remember these 3 Ds by the time I'm done, I'll be a happy man, okay? So this is called the 3 Ds of mindfulness trading. I'm going to try to get you to understand these, and they're very, very simple, but they're very, very core concepts. And in fact, people don't know, but guys, and I live in a military town where there's Marines, there's a lot of Marines, there's a lot of sailors, and people retire and colonels retire. And one of the things you learn are their tactics that these folks use. But what I've learned over the time is these tactics, and also intelligence personnel use these tactics. Now, I'm not going to disappear, because I'm telling you guys this, because it's pretty well understood in the military and the intellectual community, the intelligence community about this. But I think it's important to start getting everybody to start thinking about this. And you might even want to, write these down to yourself as we go along and keep repeating them to yourself. And again, it's a tactic. One other thing you need to know is things like Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, all of their, Rick, when you get a quiz, it'll be easy, multiple choice. Which of the 3? No. So the bottom line is that all of these groups know ways that the special forces folks work. In fact, I don't think you realize it, but these firms like Merrill Lynch and stuff, they spend millions of dollars having advisors come in, psychologists, marketing people, and bottom line is that people don't realize a lot of the guys who are special forces guys, they used to like to hire for the floor traders. They were aggressive, they could go through hell and back, they were motivated, they would stay focused on their targets. Really, really important folks, and they learn from all these guys. So when we're trading, we're learning our little technique. Well, we don't realize that these guys that are out there who are basically making the market are highly intelligent, highly funded, not only for the trades, but also for the knowledge base that they can get. If they call me up and they say, hey, Frank, I want to pay $100,000 to speak with you for a week, you don't think I'm going to be on a jet? And so they have access, So, bottom line is, I kind of say you got to know your enemies. All right. Now, they're not necessarily always your enemies. They're going to come and shoot you or anything, but you need to know your enemy. Very, very important. Sun Tzu, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So my goal here is to get you to understand, to some extent, the mindset of your enemies. Okay? Very, very important. Can anybody hear, is everybody hearing this okay? Let me just do a mic check real quick, because Sam said he can't. I believe you hit F5 or F7 if you folks at DTI can help them out. So it might be something specific to Samuel, so someone could help them out at DTI. Thank you, Kelly. That'll be wonderful. And if you guys do get disconnected, just hit F5 and just type it in here, and the DTI people will give you the key. So you've got to really know your enemies. So, we're going to talk about these 3 things, and it's not going to take long, and I really want you folks to grasp this, all right? The first D is distraction. Now, interestingly enough, because we live in a town with a Navy, we have air shows. The Blue Angels come, and some are at the base, and some are at the ocean. And it's amazing if you've ever seen these guys. Now, not just the Blue Angels, but when they actually show a landing, they actually have shown us the landings to the beach here. And you'll see landing ships coming up, these underwater submersible vehicles, and you'll see guys paratrooping down, and you'll see these 3Ds. And they use these 3Ds, and when you're there, you get disoriented. And that's what they do. The military's known this for years. Well, don't think that these guys don't have some of this stuff programmed into what they do with you as a trader. These are brilliant guys. So I'm giving you one of their, if you will, inside psychological secrets. It's not really a secret. I mean, many people know it, but it's not discussed enough. Okay? So, distraction. Distraction is the first of the D's. You're going to see how all of these come together, and I'm going to give you a little story. Okay, distraction is I lose traction. Very good. I love it. All right, distraction. Many things distract us from our goals. Now, not all of this is created by the brokerage firms. I'll talk a little bit about what they create. But in general, it's so easy. I'll have people, text me something and say, the leader of North Korea wants to hit first strike against the United States, or, the guy in Venezuela keeled over for cancer. I mean, these are important political events, and they may affect maybe an oil market, or they may affect defense industry. But, when you're trading, you got to focus on what's going on with your trading and what was your plan. Now, if a major thing happens like a 911, of course, that's going to affect your plan. But there are many people when 911 occurred didn't even think about shorting the market, pre-market. They were in shock. Hey, listen, that's what they do. Hey, these terrorists know these tactics too, by the way. So political news and current events, I'm not saying they're important. I'm not saying that Fed events are not important and the Fed numbers are not important. But don't get distracted by that nonsense. Traders are not investors. They're traders, and they're focused on the market. Second thing is the talking heads. You all hear about the talking heads. And basically, you listen to different news programs, and they're talking about all this stuff. Honestly, I maybe only once or twice out of thousands of trades made money on a news story. By the time you hear it, the trade's over. And even websites that try to keep you up to date, it's over. So don't be distracted. This is a big thing. Also, one of my distractions often is family and personal issues. I've had some family members, and I'm doing fine, but I had to go to a couple of doctor's appointments. Next Tuesday, my whole trading day is shot because I've got 3 sets of family members I have to go to the doctor with. And because I'm a doctor, I go because everything gets clear and there's no misunderstandings, and I get things done more efficiently. But, that's a distraction. Now, will I trade that day? No, because it's not a trading day. It's going the whole day to the doctor's day. Health issues. If you're not feeling well, you shouldn't be trading. I mean, sometimes people say, I really want to trade, I'm not feeling good. Lay down, rest. There's a million trading days, or at least 1,000 trading days, depending on our age. I may not have a million left, and may have a couple thousand left, but that's something. Also, a very, very important thing, and this is probably one of the more important, is misperceptions or misconceptions about the market. You think the market's going up. The other day, I believe it was Wednesday, if I remember right, the market was looking like it was going to break to a new high. I think it went to 1545, and it looked like it was going to break a new high. And then what it did is it did not. Now, interesting, through the day, it goes down to a low, and it comes back up to that high by the end of, and actually I think it was midday, and it goes down again, and it comes back up again after market. Okay? So, bottom line is that if you have these misperceptions, you got to keep on looking at. If you have certain indicators you're looking at, and you're really familiar with the market, don't get distracted by that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I'm going to tell you something they pull on you, and I know it's programmed in there. And also the holy grails of trading. We're trading, we're not doing well, and so we drop what we're doing and we go to another program. We go to another program. The holy grails of trading can distract the heck out of you too. A lot of trading is very straightforward and very simple if you understand what's going on, and we're going to talk about that a bit. So just be aware of that. So the most important thing I want you to get out of this is, no, it's not officially recorded, Rick, but I'll give you I am personally recording it, so if you email me, I'll give you an email to send it to. I've created a whole new email because I get too many emails and junk mail, and you can email me at this email site if you need a copy, and I'll personally provide it to you, okay? I might even put this on YouTube for you. So I'm thinking about putting this on YouTube. That's why I'm personally recording it. So don't worry if you have sound problems. No problem. I'll make sure you can get to it because I think this is so important. So the next thing, what's the second D? The second D is diversion. So remember, we're getting distracted. So here's an example. I'm at this air show by the beach, and these paratroopers are coming down. It really looks cool if you've ever seen it, because they have smoke coming down, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm getting distracted to these paratroopers, and I'm watching these paratroopers. And not only that, I'm getting diverted. I'm getting diverted with my emotions. I'm really enjoying, the show that I'm seeing there. And I mean, it's really awesome if you ever see it. In fact, it kind of gives you chills. Because like, gosh, these guys can really do this in a battle. And you think, I don't want to be the guy on the ground because I'm dead meat. Just put your hands up, I surrender, and run off the battlefield because you're gone with those special forces guys. But the bottom line is they create distractions, and then they create what we call diversion. Okay, now, losing focus of your goals diverts your attention. So by diverting your attention, you start losing focus of your goal. Always think of yourself as being like an archer. I like archery better than just target shooting, because target shooting is actually easier to me. Archery is harder. Just a little bit of a distraction, and you can miss the target or you miss the bullseye. Very, very important. So what I would suggest is, in your mind, always think about your target and never lose focus of that target within the trading situation. So what happens is, as you're distracted, as these guys are coming down with the parachutes and the pretty color of smoke, you're getting diverted. And that's why they do it. Distraction results in diversion. Now, believe it or not, our indicators and some of the techniques we have been taught to use can divert us from focusing on what we're supposed to be focusing on. So, we always think of indicators as our friends. Remember, indicators are lagging. They're not looking forward. So what you have to, we always kind of project into the forward. We assume into the forward. But indicators are lagging, depending on the numbers you give them. Now, that doesn't mean that indicators don't have a value, and you might be able to find an oversold or an overbought, or there may be a moving average that, the brokerage firms use. Some people say a 6, other people 13 EMA, 8, whatever you use. That's not an invaluable indicator. I think when the market's up above a certain moving average, it's more bullish. If it's below, it's more bearish. If it's above the top of a candlestick, it's bullish. If it's below, it's bearish. So we know some of those basic things. But different techniques and indicators, we still have to go back to the basic core of what is the number, what is the price, and what is price doing. Okay? So don't get diverted by these indicators. You get these companies, and I appreciate them doing it. They give us beautiful charts, and they give us all these indicators, and holy smokes, you can have a million indicators on your chart. You know what? It diverts you from what you're supposed to be looking at. Okay? It diverts you from your target. Okay? Now, behaviors of traders and computer algorithms. This is extremely important, and many people don't know about this. I've been studying this for over the year. I'm kind of doing something different. When I was a student of DTI and a student of the programs, I was, trying to understand what they were teaching me in terms of concepts and techniques. And I said, but there's another part here, because basically this is human behavior. Fortunately, I have that background. So I started looking at the behavior of like professional traders and these computers. And what you find out is sometimes they go together. Sometimes they result in opposite directions. So a lot of times what you'll see is some really heavy volume or high-frequency trades go by. They come by. And the market, you can actually see the traders kind of selling their profits. And then all of a sudden, boom, you say, well, this market was heading down. Why did it go back up? Well, it's the computer algorithms. And these folks at the big firms know how we think, unfortunately. They know how we think. And because they do, they can program things to throw us off. And they're not just throwing us off. They're throwing those floor guys off, too. These proprietary traders are being thrown off. Okay? So be aware of that. Don't get thrown off. And in the future, I'm going to try to help you guys see this. It's a little bit difficult, but I know my buddy Jeff shows, numbers and watching the numbers, and that's real valuable. I've got some ways I think that you can find this behavior. And a lot of times it will explain to you why things are not seeming to work the way that all your indicators are telling you. Another thing, and I'm not putting this down, if my friend Rick Hornbeck's here. Rick, if you're here, say hi. He has a really cool program that searches for fundamentals, and I've had other friends to do this. And I think fundamentals are important, particularly for stocks, for equities or for certain types of commodities. Yeah, okay, we understand that, but don't get distracted by this. Well, I'm not trading this stock because it doesn't have good fundamentals. Meanwhile, the thing moves 10 points and you lost a roll. Or the market should be going down. The government's spending all this money. They're crazy, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, that's all distraction. I don't care what's happening economically. As a trader, I'm only caring about what's happening in the next 3 to 5 minutes to 30 minutes. Exactly, Steve. Very, very good. Too much information. TMT, exactly. Another thing is mental fatigue. Have you ever sat there and you're trading? I was joking with Charlie the other day, and I said, we got to be careful because, and he says, I'm getting tired. I says, I'm getting tired. I said, we missed that first trade. We need to walk away from this. And of course, we walked away and the market moved, but that's okay. There were more moves later in the day, but mental fatigue. You got to be careful that it diverts you. Mental fatigue diverts you. Hey, they keep chopping this market around. And then the other thing that goes along with it is boredom. How many times have you hit the mouse out of boredom? I got to get a trade in here somewhere. It's diversion, guys. They're distracting you with boredom. They're distracting you with mental fatigue. They wear you down. What do the military do? What do these special forces do? They go in and they get a few soldiers in there and they wear you. And they wear you. And then the big guns come and hammer you. When you think about this terrorist and all that kind of stuff, they come in, they do a couple hits, and they make us spend billions of dollars. They're wearing us down financially. That happened to the Soviet Union. These are tactics. They're well-known tactics. Read The Art of War with Sun Tzu. This stuff's been known for thousands of years. Guys, I don't want to overemphasize this, but I'm going to simplify it for you. Okay? We got diversion and distraction. And of course, it often leads to impulsivity. It leads to impulsivity. Exactly. I won't repeat that, Ted, but Latin. Ted's speaking Latin now. Third one, division. You got distraction, you get diversion, and then there's division. And that's their ultimate goal. They want to divide you. Because once they have divided people, or once they have divided your brain cannot process more than one piece of a main information at a time. Now you can channel switch. I mean, we can do, watching watching a football game in that little window within a window, and and then watching, a basketball game, whatever. They don't play at the same time. Maybe a hockey game and a basketball game, but you're not going to focus on it that much. Exactly, Gabriella. Divide and conquer. So be aware. And even these reports, like Ernest says, this is the game these guys are playing. They divide your attention to multiple targets, okay? They're dividing your attention. If you're an archer and you're focusing on that target and you see that bullseye and someone says, hey, look over here, or hey, look over here, or hey, you should be, and that can't even happen in golf if any of you are golfers. I mean, you've probably seen a golfer pick up and there goes, you miss the ball or you slice the ball. This also, by the way, can be very helpful in golf. So it's not just here, it can help you in sports too. I mean, we know this in any human performance setting, but we got to be careful because all those indicators and stuff become multiple targets. Also, conflicting information from different sources. Be careful of conflicting information from different sources. Stephen says, very, very good, Stephen, illusionist. Yeah. I mean, I know professional clinical hypnosis, but that stage hypnosis stuff, that's they're distracted, they're diverting you, and then they're dividing your attention. It's all a game. Okay? So you got conflicting information from different sources. This source says this, the other analyst says this, and before you know it, you're confused. The analysts say this, traders say this, the fundamentals say this, and before you know it, you're in a state of confusion. What are we supposed to be doing? Even with the stock, we're supposed to be looking at what it's doing, looking at the price, looking at the direction, looking at maybe one or two indicators. Volume is very important to me. And then focus on that trade. And if you're wrong, that's okay. Keep your losses small. But you always have this. Analysts will say, I remember when Google first came out, and CNBC analysts, it's a garbage stock. They actually made me dump Google at like $200 a share. And I had 20 call contracts that I was going to roll. And then it popped up to 150. I did grab a piece of that pop in an earnings trade, but they threw me off, and I let them. That was my fault, not theirs. It's garbage. That thing became an $800 stock. I would have been a multi-millionaire rolling those 20 contracts. Okay? it's very, very good. Political divisions, okay? There may be independents here, there may be Democrats here, there may be Republicans. I don't care. We're all traders in the end. Don't get caught up into that noise. I believe it's a lot of noise. We have problems in our country. They could be fixed. Any one of us 5 guys in this room or gals in this room could probably get together and fix most of these problems. They don't get fixed. Why? Well, there's the illusion. Because there's hidden agendas. Their target is not to fix the problem. Their target is probably to make money for the corporation or to get reelected. But don't get caught up into that stuff. Sometimes, I know Tom's been in the room from time to time. Tom Busby will say, people start talking and we will get distracted. He says, this is not a political discussion. You have to be very, very careful. In fact, a lot of times, I'll go in a chat room and then go back out because I get distracted by the chat room. Because I like engaging with people. Trading can be an isolated process. You really need to get a trading partner. You need to have a trading support group. Also, changing instruments and platforms. People think this platform's not working, so they go to another platform, and now they have to learn this new platform. Or, well, I'm not making that much, but I want to make with options, so I'm going to futures, and currencies, and you guys are all over the place. You can trade any instrument. Trust me. If you're well trained, a good trader can trade any instrument, and it's experience with the instrument. That doesn't mean that you might not trade the yen or the Aussie, but if you're dominantly a currency trader, stay a currency trader. If you're dominantly a futures trader, trade a futures trade. Stick with that. Now, again, futures will tell you what is going on. With the overall market. And truly, a good trader, as Marie says, can predict future distraction, but that could distract you. Right. The longer term, sometimes when I look at options, I look at, okay, what's going to happen over the longer term? What's going to happen over the next 2 weeks to a month because I'm doing a swing trade? However, as a day trader, I'm distracting myself and other people with that. So you have to realize if I'm there talking about something, and sometimes I'm faulted with this, I got to say, this is a day trade, this is a swing trade. Got to be very, very specific. Also, competing trading programs selling their holy grail. I go to the Traders Pub, and I love the Traders Pub, by the way, and a lot of free videos today. In fact, I wanted to do the Traders Pub, but Morgan was out of town, I believe. Morgan Busby, who runs it. So what he did is he had a bunch of free videos, and you should have got the email, and he's got a bunch of things there. But it's all these people, selling their wares, basically, and there's some really bright people there, and there's some good stuff there, but you can get totally, I've seen a couple of them, and it's like, I find it very interesting, but it's like, this will screw up my trading. There is no holy grail. I've got some really good trading skills. I know what to do. And the only thing I really have to do is understand the 3 Ds. The real key is understanding the 3 Ds. Once I am a seasoned trader, I need to understand the 3 Ds: distraction, diversion, and division. Understand them. I've just explained them to you. Distraction, diversion, and division. Write those things on. Set that, paste them in front of your trading platform, and say, what are the enemies doing? Their distraction, their diversion, and their division. Okay? Very, very important. So that's part of our solution. It's very simple. Now, if that's the case, then we have to focus on our target. Remember, I talked about the archer. Okay? You passed, Rick, you passed distraction, diversion, division. And that's why I'm keeping this simple. We got distraction, diversion, division, distraction. And then remember what these things are. The most important thing is distraction. Don't be distracted from your target. What's the target? Very simple. What is the market doing right now? Okay? What is the market doing? I could have put right now in there. What is the market doing? And then what are you doing right now? If this sounds ridiculous, the market may be doing one thing, but my brain may be doing another thing. I may be checking my email, or I may be taking a phone call. Or, you read about some of these famous traders. They literally lock themselves away somewhere. Charlie Prince and I talked about that. We actually joked around about getting an office somewhere and just being in that office. And I do have an office, but I get distracted there. You almost need like a cocoon to go trading because there's too many things. People don't know what you're doing. Us traders know what the other traders are doing. Very good, Steve. To become the 3 Ds, become an archer. Very good. And so basically, what is the market doing? What are we doing? And what are the numbers telling you? What are the numbers telling you? What is the price telling me? And if it tells me something different, respond to it. React to it. Okay? What is the biggest enemy? I talk about the wolves, these guys who try to manipulate us, and have been doing it for years. Their biggest enemy is our mind. I cannot control what Goldman does out. I cannot control what Obama does. I cannot control, I can write letters and stuff, but I have a direct control over one thing, and I have direct control of my mind, and what I need is to discipline my mind, and I start by thinking about the 3 Ds of distraction, diversion, and division. So to help you remember this, Livermore, exactly, Jesse Livermore, I want to talk to you about the story of the wolves. Okay? We're going to talk about the story of the wolves. We're going to talk about the wolves, the sheep, the sheepdog, and the shepherd. So I gave you that example of when I was out there and they're distracting you with the paratroopers, and then as that's going on, these landing ships, believe it or not, this happens, are coming up shore, and then all of a sudden you're distracted because you hear this machine gun going off, and it's the landing craft, and while you look at that, the paratroopers are now behind you with their weapons, and guess what's happening? Now, all of a sudden, two jets start flying over your head, and now you're diverting from the ground to the air. This all happens very rapidly, that's why I'm saying it fast. And then you turn around in front, and there's an Apache helicopter looking at you with a little turret turning. I've actually been there and been in the midst of this stuff. You know, there's an example. And I'm going to give you an example. Our subconscious mind is very powerful. So I'm going to give you a subconscious example that basically will help you remember this and will put it into your very core of your subconscious mind. Because all of us were kids one time, and we know those little stories that we hear in the nursery rhymes, and those go to the core of who we are. Okay, so we're going to talk about the story of the wolves, and the characters of the wolves, the sheep, the sheepdog, and the shepherd. Now, the wolves are very cunning animals, and they use the 3 Ds to devour the sheep. The wolves use the 3 Ds to devour the sheep. And the wolves' 3 Ds are distraction, diversion, and division. Okay, distraction, diversion, and division. All right. And I see other discussion here. Try to focus on this, folks, and not what your trading platform is, because here we are getting distracted. And if I'm offending you, I'm sorry if I'm telling a kid story, but this is not a kid story. This, when you see what I'm done, this has much more power than a child story. Very important to get this in your subconscious mind. I'm trying to program you guys now to help you. Okay? So, the story of the wolves again. One wolf distracts the sheep from one end of the field. What the wolf does is he comes out of the woods, and he makes the sheep look in his direction or her direction. And what happens to the field? What happens to the herd? It starts to have fear, starts to get kind of agitated and fearful. It stops doing what it was doing to be eating the nice fresh grass, and now it's looking at this wolf, and they're like, what is this? Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. So what's happening here? They're getting distracted. Just like the market does a switcheroo, or a little thing happens, or something happens out there in the news, and guess what? You start getting anxious. Okay? Next, the sheepdog starts to get distracted. Instead of focusing on the flock, the sheepdog starts to focus on the wolf instead of the flock. And should, because technically that wolf could come and attack the sheep. Now, a wily sheepdog may know a little bit, but a sheepdog is going to, they're going to go right to where the problem is, like we would. We immediately try, what's my indicator telling me? Because something weird is happening. That fight or flight reaction is a major issue. Right now, the sheep, now we have distraction. The sheep are distracted, the wolves are distracted. Now, the sheep are diverted away from their goal and start having increasing levels of fear. The sheep are getting more fearful. You probably experienced some of this. Now, I'm not saying we're all sheep. In fact, I think most of us are sheepdogs in here, believe it or not. I can tell you the stories about sheep and sheepdog. But they start to have fear. Okay, so they're diverted. They're now being diverted, and they're not really fully paying attention to what they should be paying attention to. By the same token, the sheepdog is diverted from lining the whole flock. Okay? The sheepdog is starting to watch out for the wolf that is approaching the flock. The sheepdog, if you've ever seen sheepdog or herding dogs, the purpose of the dog is to keep the herd together. Well, what happens is, and I've trained dogs before, they're not herding now. The main purpose of a sheepdog is to herd. But the sheepdog also knows how to protect. So now the sheep and the sheepdog are diverted. Okay? The wolf now starts running toward the herd. And the sheep now at high levels of anxiety go into that fight or flight response. They typically don't fight, they flight.
So what happens is the wolf runs in there, and they make all of them get into smaller groups, just like your attention is diverted. Okay, and certain parts of you are weaker than others. And what happens is, as the sheep are starting to panic and run in different groups, the weaker sheep, the older sheep, are left behind. All right? So now the sheep are divided. The sheepdog gets divided from the herd by running toward the wolf to protect the sheep, because now this wolf is heading after a sheep. So the sheepdog goes in front of the wolf and starts gritting teeth and this whole, and the wolf isn't necessarily going to really attack a sheep. What the wolf is doing is he's distracting. And the sheepdog are gritting teeth, Meanwhile, now the flock's all over. And then the remaining wolves come out of the woods. They come out. And then they attack and devour the weakest of the herd. They come out there to grab the herd. All right? Distraction, diversion, division. Now, good part of the story, good end of the story. The shepherd knows the 3 Ds of the wolves. The sheepdog doesn't know this. It's not a cognitive animal. I love animals. They're bright. I love animals. I used to work for a veterinarian, almost became a veterinarian. Who knows why I became a psychologist? Actually, there's a reason I could tell you that one day, and it has to do with the animals. Very interesting. And their owners. I wanted to work with the owners. All of it was the psychology of the owners. The dogs, good vets can take care of dogs. Anyway, it's the person whose dog is sick. You got to cater to the client is not the dog or the cat. The client is the person who owns the dog or cat. Okay, so the shepherd knows those 3 Ds of the wolves. The shepherd will be overseeing the flock and the sheepdog. Okay, the shepherd has the wisdom of the 3 Ds, and because the shepherd has that wisdom, the shepherd will protect the herd. Now, one thing the wolves don't know, and this is why I'm teaching you guys this, the wolves realize that they have a tactic. One of the things the wolves hope you never find out is that you know their tactics. The wolves are cunning and wily, but they don't know that the shepherd is seasoned and knowledgeable. And the shepherd has that knowledge of the wolves, and the shepherd is watching. The shepherds don't stay in the middle of the flock. They watch from afar. They watch the whole area. Okay? They watch on a high point, and they watch the herd and the sheepdog. So then, the shepherd, knowing what the wolves are doing, he will let that one sheepdog possibly engage the wolves, or he will call out to the sheepdog to alert the sheepdog, to herd the sheep. He will get him refocused, or her refocused. The shepherd then comes down upon the wolves as they are distracted, because now the wolves are distracted. The hunger, not only fear is a powerful emotion, the hunger is a powerful emotion. Okay? And so these wolves, the shepherd now comes down, he calls the sheepdog or sheepdogs to herd the sheep, and then he hits the wolves with the staff. Okay? The shepherd knows about distraction, diversion, and division. And Robert, you asked, what is the point of this analogy? How does it relate to the markets? Because it is a way to make you remember distraction, diversion, and division. This is called, basically, meta-communications. And this story is very important because it's going to imprint in your subconscious mind distraction, diversion, and division. And maybe that's easy for you to remember, but you know what? In another day or two, another hour or two, you'll look at all these indicators, you'll look at all these new ways of training, and you know what? You're going to forget this, and you know what? Come back to me in 6 months and tell me how profitable you are. Not to be critical, but I'm saying you have to understand why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because our subconscious mind uses symbolism and analogy, okay? So I want you folks, who are probably the sheepdogs, to think like the shepherd. I want the sheepdogs to think like the shepherds. Okay? That's where we want to go. So it is important. What are our conclusions here? We're almost done. It is important to identify the sheepdogs. Okay? Know who your sheepdogs are. The sheepdogs are often, people who teach things. I'm not saying they're bad people. The guys who try to teach you to understand the markets, those are the sheepdogs. Identify the good sheepdogs. They're valuable to the shepherd. And then learn the 3 Ds of mindful trading. So we're not just sheepdogs. We think like the shepherd. Become aware of distraction, diversion, and division. Okay? So conclusions. The big brokerage firms and the banks spend millions of dollars on how to make profits in the markets. They have trained some of the best traders and programmed computers to make money and to take it away from the ignorant. And ignorant doesn't mean I'm stupid, it means I'm without knowledge, and I am giving you knowledge. They not only know the 3 Ds of distraction, diversion, division, but they employ these concepts in their strategies. Okay, they employ these. I want you guys to, I'm trying to give you something very simple to focus on, but could greatly increase your profitability. So although the sheepdogs might be helpful, they are not always fully aware of the mind of the wolves. There are some really good traders out there, or good trading institutes, but they're not psychologists. They don't understand the working of the minds, and that's the edge. Okay? One must look to the shepherd for protection and wisdom. You must absorb those 3 Ds. Okay? Be like the shepherd. Understand the tactics of the wolves. Now, I'm not selling you anything here today. Why am I not doing that? Because I am here to get you to grasp a concept. This is so important to me. Build it and they will come, the field of dreams. Build it and the players will come. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm doing this for your welfare and to help you become better traders and to make you not just break even. So, with this, I say one thing. Who am I? I am Dr. Frank Stanley. I am your trading shepherd, and I can be contacted at tradershepherd@yahoo.com. That I'm only having that email for this presentation. Feel free to email me at that place. Feel free to ask me questions. If I'm inundated, give me some time. But this is